Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! In the hushed solitude of the apartment, a solitary figure, facing a momentous decision, stood transfixed before an open closet. The wardrobe taunted, offering a sleek, black leather pencil skirt, a fashion challenge hanging by a precarious thread. Autumn's chill whispered through slightly ajar windows, caressing the room. The figure, tall and blonde, with a determined gaze, scrutinized their reflection, pondering their reflection in the mirror's truthful gaze. Zoe's voice, crystalline and cajoling, permeated the silence from the adjacent kitchen. "Give it a go! Just a fitting! Indulge me! My creative vision requires your stature!" The figure inhaled, a sigh of reluctance. "Unconventional, this is." "It's fashion, my friend. It's for my collection." Zoe appeared in the doorway, her dark hair piled in a messy bun atop her head, sketchbook clutched to her chest. Her eyes, always intense when focused on her designs, sparkled with creative determination. The relationship had always been this way. Zoe, the brilliant fashion design student, constantly pushing boundaries, and Steven, the accommodating boyfriend who supported her artistic vision, even when it meant stepping outside his comfort zone. This request, however, felt different. "Fine." The word emerged more gruffly than intended. "But no photos." "Of course not. This is purely research." Zoe's smile didn't quite reach her eyes, betraying her professional interest in this experiment. Alone in the bedroom, Steven slipped off his worn jeans. The leather skirt felt cool against his fingertips as he unzipped it. Stepping into the garment felt strange, forbidden almost. But as the material slid up his legs and settled around his waist, something unexpected happened. It fit. Perfectly. When Zoe re-entered the room, her gasp was audible. "Oh my God!" She circled slowly, professional assessment quickly transforming into artistic excitement. "It's like it was made for you! The proportions are... Steven, do you have any idea how ideal your figure is for my designs?" "What are you talking about?" The words came out defensive, but curiosity lingered beneath. "Your shoulders to waist ratio, the length of your legs." Zoe gestured wildly with her hands. "Most male models don't have your proportionality. It's almost androgynous, but in the most perfect way." The compliment, if it was one, landed awkwardly. Steven shifted his weight, suddenly very aware of the leather hugging his thighs. "Great. Can I take it off now?" "Wait." Zoe rushed to her closet and returned with a simple white blouse. "Just humor me for 5 more minutes?" 20 minutes later, Steven stood transformed. The white silk blouse, tucked carefully into the leather skirt, created a silhouette that even he could recognize as striking. Zoe had insisted on adding a wide black belt to cinch the waist, and the effect was undeniably flattering. "I don't understand what I'm looking at," Steven admitted, unable to tear his eyes from the mirror. "I do." Zoe's voice had dropped to a whisper. "I'm looking at my muse." The word hung in the air between them, changing everything. After that afternoon, Zoe's creativity exploded. Her sketchbook filled with designs, all created with Steven's proportions in mind. What began as an accidental discovery evolved into a deliberate exploration. Zoe started calling him Lila when he wore her creations. "Lila needs a proper wardrobe," Zoe announced one evening, 3 weeks after the first skirt incident. She spread sketches across their dining table. "Nothing too elaborate at first. We'll start with the basics and build from there." This was supposed to be a one-time thing, Stephen protested weakly, even as his fingers traced the flowing lines of a midi dress on the page before him. Look me in the eye and tell me you haven't been thinking about it, Zoe challenged, her voice gentle but knowing. Tell me you haven't wondered what it would feel like to try more. The silence that followed was answer enough. Zoe's designs evolved rapidly. First came simple dresses and skirts, classic silhouettes that transformed Stephen's frame into something softer, more graceful. The blonde hair, though short, was styled differently when he became Lila, brushed forward rather than to the side, creating a softer frame for his features. You need to learn to walk properly, Zoe instructed one evening, demonstrating the subtle hip movement that made a simple stroll in a pencil skirt look effortless. And the shoulders, relax them, let them drop slightly. Stephen, or rather Lila, practiced diligently. Each suggestion Zoe offered was absorbed and implemented with surprising dedication. The transformation went beyond clothing. It became a complete embodiment. Their living room became a workshop, then a runway. Zoe documented everything, building what she called her Lila portfolio. Though initially nervous about being photographed, Stephen found himself increasingly comfortable in front of the camera when dressed as Lila. There was freedom in becoming someone else, someone unburdened by the expectations that had weighed on Stephen his entire life. 2 months into their experiment, Zoe unveiled her masterpiece, a dramatic layered tulle gown in shades of ocean blue, from deepest navy at the hem to palest aqua at the neckline. This is excessive, Stephen said, running his hand over the delicate material. This is art, Zoe corrected. And you're going to wear it for my portfolio presentation. Panic flashed across his face. In public? In front of your professors? Zoe, I can't... You can, she interrupted, taking his hands. But not as Stephen pretending to be a woman. You need to be Lila, completely, convincingly. I need your help with this. It could make my career. The request was enormous, yet something in Stephen responded to the challenge. The thought of fully embodying Lila, of stepping into the world as her rather than merely playing dress-up in the safety of their apartment, stirred something profound. What would that entail exactly? The question emerged cautiously. Zoe's eyes lit up. She'd been prepared for this moment. Everything. Makeup, a proper wig, learning to modify your voice, walking, sitting, gesturing like a woman. It would be a complete transformation. A theatrical performance, Stephen suggested, seeking safer framing. If that's how you need to think about it, Zoe agreed, though her expression suggested she recognized something deeper at play. The preparation began immediately. Zoe called in favors from friends in the theater department. A professional makeup artist taught basic techniques that subtly reshaped Stephen's face, contouring to soften the jawline, highlighting to enhance cheekbones, clever tricks with eyeliner that made his brown eyes appear larger, more expressive. A wig was commissioned, blonde, shoulder length, with soft layers, nearly identical in color to Stephen's natural hair, but longer, more feminine. The first time he saw himself with the completed look, something shifted. The person in the mirror wasn't Stephen playing a role. It was Lila. Oh, was all he managed to say, reaching up to touch the soft, golden strands. Zoe stood behind him, watching his reaction in the mirror. Beautiful, she whispered, and neither of them was entirely sure which aspect of the transformation she meant. The gown fitting took an entire afternoon. Each layer of tulle had to drape perfectly, creating the illusion of ocean waves in motion. Zoe worked methodically, pinning and adjusting, while Lila, it was becoming easier to think of this version of himself by that name, stood patiently. "How does it feel?" Zoe asked, stepping back to assess her work. "Like I'm wearing the sea." The answer came without hesitation, in a voice softened and pitched slightly higher than Stephen's natural tone. Zoe paused, noting the voice modification. "You've been practicing." A slight blush colored Lila's cheeks. "YouTube tutorials. I wanted to get it right." Something tender passed between them, acknowledgement of dedication that went beyond merely helping with a school project. Zoe reached up and adjusted a strand of the blonde wig, tucking it gently behind Lila's ear. "You're extraordinary. You know that? Most people would never do this for someone else." "Perhaps I'm not doing it entirely for you," Lila admitted softly. The night of the portfolio presentation arrived with a flurry of nerves and last-minute preparations. The fashion department had transformed their main studio into a gallery space, with each graduating student allocated an area to display their collection. Zoe's section featured photographs documenting the evolution of her designs, with the blue tulle gown as the centerpiece. Both the physical garment on a mannequin and large-format prints showing Lila wearing it. Backstage, Stephen completed his transformation. The ritual had become familiar, base makeup to even the skin tone and hide any shadow of facial hair, contouring to feminize the face, eyes enhanced with subtle shadow and mascara. The blonde wig, now expertly styled in loose waves, transformed his appearance dramatically. When he finally stepped into the blue gown, the metamorphosis was complete. Zoe gasped when she saw him. "Perfect," she breathed, making a final adjustment to the gown's bodice. "Remember, you're not my boyfriend tonight. You're Lila, my professional model and muse." The distinction felt important somehow, permission to fully inhabit this other self without reservation. When Lila stepped into the gallery space, conversations paused. The gown moved like water around her, capturing light and attention. Zoe had coached her on the proper posture, the elegant way to stand so the dress displayed to maximum effect. Faculty members approached, asking questions about the inspiration and construction techniques. Lila answered the few directed her way in her practiced voice, feeling increasingly confident as the evening progressed. "Your model has remarkable presence," one professor told Zoe, glancing appreciatively at Lila. "Where did you find her?" "She found me, in a way," Zoe replied enigmatically. "We discovered each other." The evening was an unqualified success. Zoe's collection received the highest praise, with several faculty members suggesting she submit to upcoming fashion weeks. The blue gown, and Lila's modeling of it, became the talk of the department. That night, after returning to their apartment, Lila stood in their bedroom, reluctant to remove the gown and end the experience. "Can you help with the zipper?" she asked Zoe, who was removing her own formal wear. "Of course." Zoe approached, but instead of immediately unzipping the dress, she wrapped her arms around Lila from behind, resting her chin on her shoulder. Their eyes met in the mirror. "How does it feel, going back?" The question struck a nerve. "I'm not sure I want to. Not completely." The admission hung in the air between them. Being Lila tonight felt right. More right than being Stephen has felt in a long time. Zoe nodded slowly, as if this confirmed something she'd long suspected. "Then don't go back. Not if you don't want to." What are you saying? I'm saying I see you. Both versions of you. And I'm here, whichever path you choose. The conversation lasted until dawn. Honest, raw, filled with questions neither had answers to. But a door had opened, and the light streaming through it illuminated possibilities that had always existed just beyond reach. In the weeks that followed, Lila emerged more frequently, not just for Zoe's designs, but in quiet, private moments. Stephen purchased his own clothes, simple cotton dresses, practical skirts, comfortable blouses. Nothing as elaborate as Zoe's creations, but items that felt authentic to this emerging identity. The first time Stephen went grocery shopping as Lila, wearing a modest navy blue dress, minimal makeup, and the blonde wig carefully styled, Zoe offered to accompany her but didn't insist. This journey, she understood, needed personal milestones. The shopping trip was uneventful in the best possible way. No one looked twice at the tall, blonde woman selecting produce and checking items off her list. The ordinary success of the outing was profoundly affirming. No one knew, Lila marveled when she returned, cheeks flushed with excitement. I was just another woman buying groceries. You are just another woman, Zoe said simply, if that's who you are. The question of identity evolved gradually. Stephen began researching, reading personal accounts of gender dysphoria and transition experiences. Some resonated deeply, others less so. The exploration was careful, methodical, characteristic of Stephen's approach to life's complex questions. 3 months after the portfolio presentation, Stephen sat across from Zoe at their favorite coffee shop. Dressed in male clothing for what had become an increasingly rare appearance, discomfort radiated from his rigid posture. I need to tell you something, he began, fingers nervously tracing the rim of his mug. Something I've been trying to understand myself. Zoe reached across the table, covering his hand with hers. I'm listening. I know. The words caught in his throat. He took a deep breath and continued. I'm a woman. I've always been a woman, even when I didn't have the language to understand it. Lila isn't a costume or a character. She's me. Tears welled in Zoe's eyes, but her smile was radiant. I know. I think I've known longer than you have. How? The way you transform when you become her. Except it's not really transformation, is it? It's more like coming home. I've watched you become more yourself, more authentic and at peace. That doesn't happen when someone is just playing a role. Relief flooded through Lila. It felt right to think of herself by that name now, even in male clothing. What does this mean for us? For you? It means I'm in love with a woman named Lila, Zoe said simply. The packaging might change, but the person I fell in love with is still there, maybe even more present than before. The transition that followed was both gradual and deliberate. Lila began hormone therapy after consultations with medical professionals. The changes came slowly, softening skin, subtle redistribution of fat, emotional shifts that sometimes caught her by surprise. Her natural blonde hair grew out, eventually matching and replacing the wig she'd relied on. Zoe's career flourished alongside Lila's transformation. Her graduation collection, featuring the now famous blue tulle gown, attracted attention from several boutique fashion houses. She began working as an assistant designer while developing her own label on the side, with Lila remaining her primary muse and model. Their relationship evolved as well. New dimensions of intimacy emerged as Lila became more comfortable in her body. What had begun as Zoe teaching Lila to embody femininity became a partnership of mutual discovery. They navigated challenges together, telling family members, updating legal documents, weathering occasional public misgendering. Through it all, their foundation remained solid. 1 year after the night in the blue gown, Zoe proposed a celebration. An anniversary of sorts, she explained, mysterious about the details. Lila arrived at the fashion department's studio space, now familiar territory after numerous photo shoots for Zoe's expanding portfolio. The room was transformed. Dim lighting, candles creating pools of golden illumination, and in the center, displayed on a mannequin, a new gown. Unlike the dramatic blue creation that had marked the beginning of Lila's journey, this dress was understated elegance, a column of ivory silk that caught and held the light, with delicate beadwork across the bodice that resembled stars scattered across a night sky. "What is this?" Lila asked, approaching the gown reverently. "This is us," Zoe said, coming to stand beside her. "1 year ago, I created something that helped reveal who you truly are. This dress represents who we've become together." The sentiment brought tears to Lila's eyes. "It's exquisite." "Try it on," Zoe urged gently. The silk felt cool and liquid against Lila's skin as she slipped into the gown. Her body had changed over the months of hormone therapy, curves developing where there had been none, skin becoming softer. The dress highlighted these changes subtly, celebrating the physical manifestation of her internal truth. When she emerged from the changing area, Zoe was waiting with a camera. "May I?" Lila nodded, comfortable now being photographed. She'd modeled dozens of Zoe's creations over the past year, becoming increasingly natural in front of the camera. This shoot, however, felt different, more intimate, more significant. "You're crying," Lila observed as Zoe lowered the camera after several minutes. "Happy tears," Zoe assured her, wiping her cheeks. "You're so beautiful, and not just because of the dress. You shine from within now. There's a confidence, a peace that wasn't there before." "Because I'm finally myself," Lila said simply. "Every day, I feel more connected to who I've always been beneath the surface." Zoe set aside her camera and approached, taking Lila's hands. "I have a question to ask you." "Yes?" "Would you consider wearing a dress like this again, perhaps with some modifications? Maybe in about a year?" The implication wasn't immediately clear. "For another anniversary shoot?" Zoe's smile widened. "For a wedding. Our wedding, specifically." The proposal hung in the air between them, unexpected yet perfectly timed. Lila's journey to herself had unfolded alongside their deepening relationship, each supporting and enriching the other. "Are you sure?" Lila asked, searching Zoe's face. "This past year has been so focused on my transition. Your career is just taking off. There's been so much change. And through all of it, the one constant has been us," Zoe interrupted gently. "Loving you, the real you, has been the easiest thing in my life. Everything else is just details." The moment crystallized for Lila. Standing in a silk gown created by the woman she loved, being seen and accepted completely. The journey from Stephen trying on a leather skirt to Lila embracing her true self had been extraordinary. But this felt like the true beginning. "Yes," she whispered, then more confidently, "Yes, absolutely yes." They celebrated that night with champagne and dreams of the future. Zoe sketched preliminary ideas for a wedding dress, while Lila watched, occasionally offering suggestions. Their collaborative creative process had become a cornerstone of their relationship. Zoe designing, Lila embodying those designs, and providing feedback that informed future creations. In the months that followed, both women flourished. Zoe's reputation in the fashion industry grew steadily, with several of her pieces featured in prestigious magazines. Lila continued her transition, each physical change bringing her closer to alignment with her internal self. She'd begun modeling professionally for other designers who appreciated both her unique look and the authenticity she brought to their clothes. Their wedding planning progressed alongside these developments. They chose a small gallery space for the ceremony, neutral territory that held no gendered expectations or traditions. Every decision was made thoughtfully, building a celebration that honored their unique journey. The wedding dress evolved through multiple iterations. Zoe wanted it to be her masterpiece, a garment that celebrated Lila completely. The final design incorporated elements of the blue tulle gown and the ivory silk anniversary dress, a marriage of beginnings and continuations. 2 years after first trying on the black leather pencil skirt, Lila stood before a different mirror in a different dress. The wedding gown was a triumph of design, structured yet flowing, with a bodice that followed her now feminine curves and a skirt that moved like water. Her natural blonde hair, grown long and styled in loose waves, was adorned with tiny pearl pins that caught the light as she moved. "Ready?" Zoe's voice came from the doorway. Unlike traditional weddings, they'd chosen to prepare together, supporting each other through the morning's nervous excitement. Zoe wore a tailored white suit with delicate beadwork that echoed the design of Lila's dress. Connected, but distinct, like their intertwined lives. Her dark hair was arranged in an elegant updo, accentuating the clean lines of her outfit. "I've never been more ready for anything," Lila answered truthfully. The ceremony was intimate, attended by those who had supported them throughout their journey. Lila's parents, initially confused by their child's transition, but eventually accepting, sat in the front row. Zoe's large extended family filled several rows, their enthusiasm filling the space with warmth. When they exchanged vows, Lila spoke in her natural voice, no longer consciously modified, but authentically hers after years of hormone therapy and practice. The words she shared were about transformation and recognition, about being seen and loved for her true self. "You didn't just witness my becoming," she told Zoe, emotion making her voice tremble slightly. "You created space for it to happen. You recognized me before I fully recognized myself." Zoe's vows celebrated the beauty of evolution, in their relationship, in their individual journeys, in the art they created together. "Loving you through your transformation taught me that the greatest art comes from truth. You are my muse, my partner, my constant inspiration." As they moved to the reception, surrounded by loved ones, Lila reflected on the extraordinary path that had led to this moment. What had begun as an accidental discovery, a pencil skirt that fit perfectly, had unveiled a profound truth that had always existed beneath the surface. The fashion student and her reluctant model had become creative partners and life partners, each supporting the other's authentic expression. Zoe's designs continued to push boundaries while Lila embodied them with growing confidence, their collaborative relationship enriching both their professional and personal lives. Later that evening, as they shared their first dance as wife and wife, Lila leaned close to Zoe's ear. "Thank you for seeing me," she whispered. "Thank you for becoming who you were always meant to be," Zoe replied, squeezing her hand. The dance floor slowly filled with their guests, but for a moment they remained in their own world. Two artists who had created something beautiful together, a life authentic to both of them, built on recognition, transformation, and unconditional love. In the years that followed, their journey continued. Zoe's fashion line gained international recognition, with Lila frequently featured in campaigns that celebrated diverse expressions of femininity. Lila discovered her own creative voice, eventually moving from modeling to photography, capturing images that explored identity and transformation. Their apartment walls displayed framed photographs documenting their story. The blue tulle gown that had been a turning point, the ivory anniversary dress, their wedding portraits. Alongside these milestones were quieter moments: Lila's first day living full-time as herself, Zoe's first major fashion show, ordinary days made extraordinary by the freedom of authentic living. What had begun with a black leather pencil skirt had evolved into a life neither could have imagined, one founded on the courage to recognize and embrace truth, both in themselves and in each other. Their greatest creation wasn't any garment or photograph, but the love that had made space for transformation, recognition, and joyful becoming.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!